When I turned 75, people said my life was blessed. I had lived through many storms, raised a family, and now had time to rest. From the outside, everything looked peaceful. But inside, a different story was unfolding. It was a story of silence, of nights without sleep, and of mornings where even the sunshine felt heavy on my shoulders. Depression does not always come with loud cries or dramatic moments. Sometimes, it comes quietly. It crept into my life little by little. First, I lost interest in the things I once loved, tending to my flowers, baking pies, reading my Bible. Then, I started avoiding phone calls. When my children invited me for dinner, I made excuses. I told them I was tired, but the truth was, I didn't want them to see the emptiness in my eyes. At night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, my heart filled with questions. Why am I still here? Do I matter anymore? What is the purpose of these years left to me? I cried silently so no one would hear. Depression had made me a prisoner inside my own mind. When my daughter visited one afternoon, she noticed. She looked into my face and said softly, "Mother, you're not yourself anymore." Her words cut deep, because they were true. I was not myself. I was only a shadow. But still, I smiled and said, "I'm fine." Because that is what we seniors often do. We hide our pain, thinking it will pass, or that sharing it will only be a burden. Guidance break. My dear friends, please listen carefully. If you ever feel this weight of sadness, do not ignore it. Depression is not just old age. It is not weakness. It is an illness, just like diabetes or heart disease. And like any illness, it can be treated. The first step is to speak, to tell someone how you feel. Hiding it will only make the darkness deeper. I did not know then what was happening to me. I thought I was simply tired from life. But what I was facing had a name: depression. And though it frightened me, giving it a name was the beginning of my journey. Because you cannot fight an enemy until you recognize it. That was my silent struggle, the part no one saw. And it was the hardest chapter of my life. But even in the deepest darkness, a flicker of light remained, waiting for me to find it. Days turned into weeks, and the sadness grew heavier. It was no longer just in my mind, it began to show in my body. My shoulders felt like they carried stones. My legs, once strong enough to chase after my grandchildren, now trembled just walking to the kitchen. Even simple tasks, like making tea, felt like climbing a mountain. I stopped opening the curtains in the morning. The sunshine, once my companion, now hurt my eyes. I wanted darkness, because it matched the way I felt inside. My family tried to cheer me up, but their words bounced off me like raindrops on a stone. I smiled when they visited, but as soon as the door closed, the silence swallowed me again. Food lost its taste. Music lost its melody. Life lost its color. Some nights, I whispered to myself, "Why am I still here? What is the use of living if joy has left me?" My pillow was soaked with tears I never admitted to anyone. The loneliness was louder than any voice in the room. Depression is not just sadness, my dear friends. It is emptiness. It is a thief that steals your sleep, your appetite, your laughter. It convinces you that you are worthless, that your story is over. And in those days, I almost believed it. Guidance break. If you have ever felt this way, please understand, you are not weak. You are not a burden. What you are experiencing is depression, and it is real. Many seniors face it, especially when health problems, loneliness, or memories of loss weigh heavy on the heart. But here is the truth. Depression can be treated. There is help. There is hope. You do not have to carry it alone. My turning point had not come yet. At that stage, I was sinking deeper. I refused invitations, ignored phone calls, and isolated myself more each day. I thought hiding would protect me, but hiding only gave the darkness more power. One evening, my grandson came to visit. He ran to me with his drawing, saying, "Look, Grandma, it's us in the garden." I looked at the paper bright flowers. Smiling faces, but I could not smile back. My heart was too heavy. He tilted his head and asked, "Why don't you laugh anymore, Grandma?" That simple question pierced my heart. I wanted to answer him, but no words came. I just held him close and cried silently. That was the lowest point of my life. The day I realized my sadness was not only hurting me, it was hurting the people who loved me most. And in that moment of pain, something small but powerful began to stir inside me. The thought that maybe, just maybe, I needed help. When I thought I had reached the end of my strength, it was my family that refused to let me sink. My daughter began visiting more often. Sitting with me in silence when words were too heavy, she would bring me tea, not forcing me to talk, just holding my hand. And sometimes, that quiet presence spoke louder than any advice. One evening, she said, "Mother, I can see your pain. You don't have to hide it from us. We love you, and we will carry this with you." Her words broke the walls I had built around my heart. For the first time in months, I allowed myself to cry openly, not in secret, and instead of shame, I felt relief. My tears fell, but they landed in hands that held me, not in silence that buried me. My grandchildren also became my little healers. They would burst into my room with drawings, hugs, and laughter. One day, my granddaughter placed a crown made of paper on my head and said, "Grandma, you're the strongest queen we know." I laughed a sound I had almost forgotten. In that laughter, a spark of light returned. Guidance, break. My dear friends, if you are walking through depression, please don't walk alone. Let your family in. Let them love you through the silence. And if you don't have family nearby, reach out to a friend, a neighbor, a support group. Depression grows stronger in isolation, but weaker in connection. Along with family, my faith became my anchor. On mornings when the sadness tried to crush me, I opened my prayer book and whispered, "Lord, give me light for one more day." Sometimes, the prayer was all I had. But it was enough. It reminded me that even when my strength was gone, God's strength was still with me. Slowly, I began to sit by the window again. I noticed the sun painting the sky in colors I had forgotten. I felt the breeze touch my face, gentle and kind, as if reminding me that the world still had beauty for me. My faith told me, this is not the end. Your story is still being written. Family, love, and faith did not erase my depression overnight, but they gave me the rope to hold on to when I felt I was falling. They reminded me that I mattered, that my life still had purpose, and that even in old age, there was still light to be found. The first real step toward healing was admitting I needed help. My daughter gently suggested I see a counselor. At first, I resisted. I thought, therapy is for younger people, not for someone my age. But she reminded me, healing has no age limit. And so, with trembling hands and a doubtful heart, I agreed. In my first session, I sat quietly, unsure of what to say. But the counselor's calm voice encouraged me. "Tell me how you feel." Slowly, I spoke about my loneliness, my sleepless nights, my fears of being forgotten. And as the words poured out, I felt a little lighter. For the first time, I realized I didn't have to carry the weight alone. Along with therapy, I began making small changes in my days. My son encouraged me to walk with him in the garden. At first, I managed only a few steps, but those steps were victories. Each flower I noticed, each bird I heard, reminded me that life still had beauty. Movement became medicine for both my body and my soul. I also returned to my old hobbies. I picked up my knitting needles, even if my hands were slow. I opened my recipe book and baked simple bread with my granddaughter. I even started writing in a small journal, putting my thoughts on paper instead of burying them inside me. These small acts gave me purpose again. Guidance, break. My dear friends, healing from depression does not happen in one day. It happens in small steps. If you are struggling, start simple. Take a short walk. Call someone you trust. Write down your feelings, or pray. Do not wait for the darkness to disappear before you move, and the darkness will begin to fade. Another part of my healing was routine. I set small goals each morning. Open the curtains. Drink a glass of water. Step outside for a few minutes. These may sound small, but in depression, even the smallest tasks are victories, and each victory gave me strength for the next. Most importantly, I learned to be kind to myself. For so long, I had judged myself harshly. Why can't you be stronger? Why are you so weak? But I replaced those voices with gentler ones. You are still here. You are trying. You are valuable. That change in how I spoke to myself helped me believe I was worthy of healing. Step by step, day by day, I began to feel the light returning. Not all at once. Not perfectly, but enough to remind me that depression was not the end of my story. Healing was possible, and it was happening inside me. One morning, I woke up and noticed something I hadn't seen in a long time: the sunlight spilling through my window. For months, I had kept the curtains closed, but now they were open, and instead of hiding from the light, I welcomed it. I sat there quietly, breathing deeply, and for the first time in years, I felt peace. Depression had taken me into the deepest darkness, but love, faith, and small steps had brought me back. No, it did not vanish overnight. Even now, some days are harder than others. But I have learned this truth: depression does not define me. It is a chapter in my story, not the whole book. What brought me back was not one big miracle, but many small ones. My daughter's gentle words, my grandchildren's laughter, the strength I found in prayer, the courage to take a short walk, to open the curtains, to speak my truth. Each little act was a candle, and together, they lit up the darkness. Guidance break. My dear friends, if you are battling depression, please remember this: there is always light, even if you cannot see it right now. Seek help from your family, from a doctor, from your faith. Take small steps each day. And above all, believe that your life still matters, because it does. At 76, I thought my best days were behind me. But I was wrong. Healing showed me that joy does not have an age. Peace does not have a limit. Hope does not expire. Even in old age, you can laugh again, love again, and live again. Now, when I sit with my grandchildren and tell them stories, I remind them even the darkest nights end with the morning sun, and I tell myself the same. Depression tried to steal my light, but I chose to fight, and with God's grace, I found it again. So, if you are listening to my story today, hold on. Do not give up. The light you are searching for may be closer than you think. Keep moving, keep hoping, keep believing, because life still has beauty, and you are still a part of it.